Hello and welcome to Virtual Encounters. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. When we think of the dominant West Indies team of 1980s, one name will always hog the limelight. One name will always come into the mind. Yes, you guessed it right. Very risky, very stylish, and a superb, wonderful fielder. Augustine Lawrence Logie. Gus Logie is with us from
Thank you very
Bermuda.
much.
Welcome, Gus. Welcome to DD News and DD India.
Thank you.
Good to have you. How you doing and how you dealing with these difficult times of COVID?
Yes, not too bad. Thank you very much for having me, and thanks to all of India. A lovely place to have been over the years. Enjoyed it very much. You tricked me there when you said the one name that you would have remembered. I was going to say Viv Richards.
You were no less. You were no less.
But I was just happy to be part of such a great outfit. I mean, there were so many great players in that outfit that it made it a lot easier for players like myself. We felt just great being involved with those players and to see the way they went about their duties, the professionalism they exhibited both on and off the field, gave us the confidence to continue to grow as young players coming into the setup.
But Gus, thank God. After such a long time, cricket is back because cricketers generally nowadays, cricketers are not used to being cooped up at home for such a long time, for so long, and they crib for getting a break and from cricket, a time off. But it was maybe a blessing in disguise for some of the cricketers who were injured.
Well, yes, certainly. I wouldn't say a blessing in disguise, but it certainly has been a good opportunity to recharge their batteries and to spend time with their loved ones and their families. Especially at these times, it's become so much more important. And I think we are now seeing a different side, not just to cricket, but in terms of life. And I think it's a difficult period for everyone. We have to adapt and to overcome these difficult times. But what we have seen is that the sport in itself is adapting to it. There's certainly been very creative in the way they have been able to have these bubbles going and the players' response to it. But of course, there's always the downside to it. Being away from home, not being able to really and truly see your loved ones for long periods does poses its own problems. And we have seen so many players having little mental issues. Some of them are having a little bit of stress issues. So we are still appreciative of what they are doing out there on the field, and we are being entertained. Many of us who are not able to be on the field anymore, just sitting back in our living rooms and watching these superstars exhibited their skills.
Yeah, but Gus, do you think that the way cricket was perceived in West Indies, in Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago, Bermuda, in your times, the definition of cricket has changed if we compare it with the current generation of the West Indian cricketers? Not many cricketers are coming up.
Well, what we have, believe it or not, we have a proliferation of cricket being played in the Caribbean. We have more cricket being played now than possibly in the days gone by. What has been the difference is that the success has not been there. And therefore, the following, whether in terms of the physical following, people in the grounds are not there. But generally in the public eye, cricket still holds an important position. And I think they still see cricketers in the Caribbean as someone to emulate, someone to look up to. It's still one of the few sports in the Caribbean that we seem to think unites us as the Caribbean people, even though some people may beg to differ. But, you know, taking a rhyme from one of the Calypsonians in our part, they say we are some tiny islands of conflict and confusion. But what we have is that when a West Indies team come together and do well on the field, it gives everyone, not only in the Caribbean, but in the diaspora, a lift. We somehow feel that we have arrived, we have done something together, and we have unified the Caribbean in some way. So yes, cricket still holds an important part. Unfortunately, our national teams have not been as successful as before. Individuals have done very well, but unless we get that team environment and that team spirit again that we used to have, and the success that we used to enjoy, it makes it very difficult for the young players coming up to really gravitate to a sport that so many of us take not only for granted, but so many of us take it to heart and think it is a pride and a joy to be involved in West Indies cricket.
But something to do with the West Indies Cricket Board also. They almost most of the times they have been in conflict with the players. Maybe it's because of the match fees, or you will know better. Chris Gayle not playing, now he has agreed. Dwayne Bravo not playing, Pollard not playing. Sami, he was the captain for two World Cups, captain of the World Cup winning teams. He had issues with the board. You think this is also the major reason?
Well, it isn't a reason, but unfortunately or fortunately, over the last possibly few years, we have tried in the West Indies to mend the fences.
Okay.
There have been a change in presidency of the
Yeah.
board, and
Yeah.
now Jimmy Adams as director of cricket
Yeah.
in the Caribbean. They have all made a concerted effort to bring those senior players back on board. Of course, maybe some of them are getting a little bit older now and coming to the end of their careers, and maybe we have to move them into possibly a different area, whether it's in terms of mentorship, whether it's in terms of coaching, whether it's in terms of broadcasting, to pass on their vast knowledge to the younger players. But certainly there has been a shift. Even the players association has been on board with the cricket board, and they are now mending those fences. So what we have seen in the past year, we've seen Pollard being captain of the white ball team. We have seen people like Bravo, we've seen people like Narayan. Some of those players have come back into the setup and are doing pretty well. Unfortunately, injury is part and parcel of the sport today. And Bravo has just been injured, so he's out of the T20 tournament, which will be played in New Zealand. But it gives other people a chance to come on board. So again, success is going to be important. That's going to be important. If these players we have now are competing and winning, I think we will see a resurgence in West Indies cricket, not only just for West Indian people, but I think for people all over the world. Many people seem to think that West Indies is just second team, apart from their national teams. They always say West Indies is their second team. So we are hoping that the guys can live up to that expectation.
Yeah, but Gus, what is the biggest difference that you see? You were talking about how you used to celebrate the success, team spirit, you use this word. But what is the biggest difference that you see in the team when you were playing in 80s and 90s, and now? What has changed?
Well, I think when we played basically for a certain amount of pride, a certain amount of West Indian unity. We felt putting on that maroon uniform meant more to us than anything else. I don't know, and I'm not going to offer a suggestion as to what's the difference now, but we don't see the same level of commitment from some of the players. Obviously, you hear a lot of talk about everybody's now looking after themselves and their families, so they're going to make as much money as they can, playing in all the different leagues. So when it coincides with a West Indian tour, they may prefer to go and play a T20 tournament than that. Maybe something the ICC, maybe something the West Indies board will have to look at. How do you not have these tours conflict with your national commitments? But that is only 365 days in the year. And if you're going to have these T20 tournaments being played throughout the year, it makes it very difficult. So the players have a choice and they're exercising their choices.
Okay, nicely put forward by you. But now we'll move away from this. We'll talk about you as a cricketer now. You played cricket professionally for 14, 15 years. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. You played international cricket for almost 10 years, a decade long. You have coached West Indies, Canada, Bermuda also. You have coached women's team too, and club teams also. Tell us your life as a cricketer yourself, and then as a coach. Which role did you like the most?
Well, it's a little 50-50 if I want to say it that way. But of course, when you're a player, you have control of what happens out there in the middle. There's no two ways about it. And of course, you are in control. You put the effort in. And of course, you are the ones to dictate terms, whether you succeed or you fail. As a coach, it's a bit difficult. You can only pass on the information as best as possible and hope that your charges then can execute on the day of the game. But the responsibilities are enormous. When we played for the West Indies team, as I said before, I came into a team with the likes of Clive Lloyd, who was the captain, and I was in awe of these individuals, no two ways about it. Clive Lloyd was like a father figure to us, and I remember my first time in Australia with the West Indies team was about 2 or 3 of us who made our debuts at that time, was Harold Joseph and Jeffrey Dujon, and Sir Clive, as we call him now, he took us to a dinner, and he told us exactly what was expected of us, and then he asked what we expect of him, and so it made you feel at ease. And then of course it makes you understand that once you put on that maroon uniform, and that white uniform going out there, you are representing not just yourself,
Yeah.
you're representing the team, you're representing the Caribbean, you're representing the diaspora. So that was inculcated in us from young. So we understood what it meant to try and go out there and give off your best all the time and every time. So, you know, for me, at the end of the day, my career may not have been a great one compared to so many in terms of numbers, but I felt I contributed to a team that was unbeaten when I played. When I retired, I had never been in a losing test series.
Yeah.
So I don't have the experience of saying that I lost a test series, and all because of the team effort. We always found a way. Whenever there was none, we always found a way to win. And many times we won for the people that were there, the Clives, the Vivs, you know, the Gordon Greenwiches, the Desmond Haynes, because we saw the passion, the Michael Holdings. When you lose a game, you know, you will see guys crying in the dressing room. I mean, it's not nice to say it now that you see big guys crying, but I don't know if the young players today cry when they lose, you know, but that's the kind of passion we had. So we felt like a family. And yes, in all families, you had disagreements and you had, you know, differences. But when we walked out there to really and truly made a statement. And to me, that is what will last with me forever. I try in my coaching to pass that on to the young people to understand why they're playing the game and the reasons for playing it and what it can do, the legacy they can also leave for themselves and for their families and for everyone. And it's not just about, you know, how much money you make or how much you didn't make, but the point is that, you know, you leave lasting memories. And, you know, my life has been, you know, part of that.
Absolutely. Gus, I should say this, that I'm getting goosebumps when you were explaining the kind of a passion you guys had for your team. It's really commendable. But just for the everyone's info, I'll say this. Gus Logie made his ODI debut in December 1981. He did not get a chance to bat in his first 4 matches, and this was because so strong was the West Indies side. He finally got a chance to bat in March 1983. He made his debut in December 1981, and the first time he got a chance in March 1983 against India at Queen Park's Oval, and there was enough time for him to score 6 not out. It did not end there. Gus Logie did not get to bat the following innings, and this was followed by 1 not out. And then finally in January 1984, after 3 years of his debut, he was dismissed, bowled by Jeff Lawson for 9, and his subsequent outings read 28 not out, 9 not out, 19, 49 not out, 14 not out, and after 12 matches, Logie's career numbers read 7 innings, 5 not outs, and 121 runs. So in the span of 26 months into his career, he played only 7 innings. And Gus, such a dominating team you played with.
And that's a great stat. I never even knew about that. I was just glad and happy to be part of that team. We were winning, and that was most important, because many times you had to sacrifice sometimes your own performances for the team's success. And sometimes even though you might have been slotted to go in at a certain number, because of the situation of the game, they may then, the flexibility in the batting order, you may have then been pushed down because things were going so well. But it never occurred to you that you were being shortchanged. It never occurred to you that you were being hard done by. All it said is that you were part of a successful team. And then when you went out in the field of play to, you know, even sometimes as a substitute, I remember being in Australia as a substitute, and I was, you know, in a situation whereby a bowler will have a little niggle, or a batsman may have a little niggle, and I will be saying, you just bat and I will feel, you just bowl and I will feel. You know, those were the sort of thing that happen. And then you develop the reputation of being a super sub, and then you will run someone out, or you'll take a catch, and before you know it, you know, you contributed to the team being successful. So sometimes it's not all about the figures. Figures sometimes don't always tell the whole story. But I think being part of that team, you did whatever was necessary to make your team successful. And I think if it means sacrificing sometimes your own innings, you did it. And that's what we grew up in that era thinking about.
Right. But Gus, in the first 10 innings in Test, you had 8 less than 13 scores, including 4 ducks, although you had 100 and a 52. But who backed you in those times? Captain Clive Lloyd or coaches?
I think so. I think we never had coaches assigned
Yeah.
to the teams in those
Okay.
days. So the senior players were then the mentors, if you want to call it that. And of course,
Mm.
Clive saw in me not just the ability to possibly play, but also to be a team person. And I think that was very important at that time, you know, being a team person. I remember
Mm.
my first 100. It tells you, I remember when we played against India and I scored my first 100. I remember coming out to tea, after tea, I was about 120 not out. And you know, he said to me, look, we're going to declare in about half an hour, so get as many as you
Mm.
can in the next half an hour. This was the sort of thing that happened in the West Indies team in those early days. It was not about you make as many as you can. It was about trying to win a game. So even though you were in a position as a young player coming into a team, it was, you know, to excel and to do well because you want your stats to look impressive. It was all about fitting into the
That's right.
goals that the
That's right.
team set. I remember also in my first test match against India in Jamaica, we were in a
Mm.
situation where we had to chase 170 and 20 odd overs.
Okay.
As a young man going into your innings, then you thinking, you know, I want to preserve my wicket. No, you couldn't. You had to try and get as many runs in a shorter time as possible. So there in 1983, we were playing T20 cricket and didn't even know it was T20 cricket because you got to score 170 in 23 overs or something like that. And we did it. But at the end of
Mm.
the day, you face two balls, you get a 6 and a 4, and then you get out. And then if you look at the stats, somebody will say you only scored 10. But in the context
Mm.
of the game,
Yeah.
you end up contributing to the
That's right.
game being a successful one. So,
That's right.
you know, sometimes it's very difficult just to look at the stats and see exactly how a player correct could have
Mm.
panned out. You know, but I enjoyed it. I wouldn't have changed it for the world because, as I said before, I played at a time when we were more successful. As I said before,
Mm.
my experiences of playing 52 test matches over a period of 10, 12 years and not being involved in a losing test series, I don't know how
Yeah.
many players in the world today can boast of that.
Hmm. But you like batting more or fielding? Because I remember a game when you took 3 catches and 2 run outs against Pakistan, if I'm not wrong, and you were declared man of the match.
Yes, yes, I remember that quite vividly. It was in Sharjah, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I think anybody likes batting, but I always remember I had growing up an old coach of mine by the name of William Guadalupe who always told us that you got to be a very competent fielder because you spend more time in the field and possibly you will spend batting or even bowling. So you had to be competent at that, and the only way you can be competent is to work hard at it. So and then you will enjoy it. So I enjoyed fielding because I knew that there's always a possibility something can happen out there. And we enjoyed always myself, people like Roger, you know, Viv, and you know, so Viv and all these guys competing with each other, training, so that
Yeah.
when you get into the game, you know, you have these guys, 2 or 3 of you on the offside, 2 or 3 of you on the onside, and you would be saying nothing will pass. You know, this was the
Yeah.
sort of fun we had. So, you know, yeah, we enjoyed it very well on the field. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, every batsman, I think they were wary of playing a pull shot when you were there standing at the square leg. Such a good fielder you were. But you started your career with Clive Lloyd, under Clive Lloyd, and then ended with Viv Richards in Tests. Uh, and you played alongside Michael Holding, Roberts, Gardner, Marshall, and then with Walsh also, Ambrose, Bishop. What do you think was the biggest difference in both the teams when you started your career and then in 1991?
Well, I think Clive Lloyd in those days, they were like father figures to us. There's no two ways about it. Those guys were there to guide. They were there to not only protect, they were there to also teach you
Okay.
the way of professionalism and where you operate. They knew you had the skill. Now you had to set certain standards. They had standards that they had set, and you had to therefore follow through on that standards. You know, Clive was one of those individuals when we came on board. Myself, Jeffrey Dujon, and Harold Joseph. We went to Australia.
Yeah.
And he had us to a dinner and he sort of outlined to us what was the expectation that he had of us as young players coming into the setup. And after we chatted for a while, he asked us if there was any expectations we had of him as a captain and as a person. So, he had our respect. He was like a father figure to us. Many times we would have gone out there trying to win games and win games for Clive. It was no two ways about it. We just wanted to make sure that he was always happy. And so too,
Yeah.
so many of the senior players in the setup. You had the Gordon Greenidge, the Viviches, the Joel Garners, the Desmond Haynes. These are individuals who you look up to and respected quite admirably. And then the Malcolm Marshalls, they talk about the
Yeah.
fast bowling quartets we had, were just magnificent. I
Yeah.
remember particularly one time I was rooming with Gordon Greenidge, and it was about 5:30 one morning, and I heard a knocking on my door, and I got up and I opened the door, sleepy eyes and all, and it was a big figure of Joel Garner there bracing up on the wall, and he said, "Come on, young man, let's go for a run." Now you just couldn't refuse, now could you? So we
Yeah.
went for a run for about 45 minutes in Adelaide, and when we came back, there were cameras, photographers at the hotel, they're waiting, and they took a picture of us coming in, and the caption the next day was the long and short of it. But that friendship and that camaraderie remained up to today.
Yeah.
When I go to Barbados, I check on Joel, wherever I am in the world, you send him a note, he sends you one just to see how you're going. So that relationship that we had on the field of play has extended off the field of play with our own families, our friends. So we keep in touch as regularly as possible. So
Yeah.
that's part and parcel of the camaraderie, the family, the togetherness. So we played like that as well. Yes, in all families, you had disagreements. But at the end of the day, I think
Yeah.
most of the time we understood
True.
what our roles and responsibilities were. Yeah.
Yeah, but did you share good camaraderie with Indian cricketers also, the likes of Sunil Gavaskar, Kapil Dev, Shastri, Madan Lal? Were you good friends with them?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think there was always a lot of respect there. There's no
Yeah.
two ways about it. That respect has continued up to today. I admire those individuals for what they have done and the kind of pressure they have been under all the time. When you talk about billions of people looking on and expecting, But I know in those days I had my good friend Kevin Murray, because we
Okay.
were similar heights, so we certainly got along very well together with him. So yeah, we maintained some sort of protocols and some sort of respect over the years. No two ways about it.
Hmm. But you were part of the 1983 West Indies squad. You played finals against India. You were not part of the 11, but you were part of the setup. But
Yeah.
did you think? I'm talking about the team that India could win the World Cup.
Well, it's funny because when we played in the earlier rounds, they had beaten us.
Hmm.
And we felt,
Hmm.
it's a dangerous team, especially in English conditions. They may
Okay.
not have had the out and out quick bowlers as we did, but because of the conditions, the movement and excessive movement that they got with the ball, and the Madan Lals, the Kapil Dev, these were the guys. We felt they could be a threat, and the batting was pretty solid at that time as well. So when we met them in the finals, even though we felt we had the upper hand after
Hmm.
we had knocked them over for 180 odd, we also had some struggles in our dressing room. We had a few injuries. I think Clive was injured on the way, and therefore we made some maybe poor choices in terms of shot selections. But taking away, maybe it had to happen. There was a great catch I remember from Kapil Dev to dismiss Viv, and I think they would have changed the whole game. And
Yeah.
then of course,
It did.
we
Yeah.
saw Amarnath getting them 1 or 2 wickets. So it to me, we would have lost that game as the West Indies. We were beaten, but I think cricket, I think at the end of the day would have won. There's no two ways about it. I think if we were, around the world when India won was incredible. I think it had given possibly Indian cricket the kind of lift that they needed. And, we had to, at the end of the day, understood that after winning 2 World Cups before, we now had to rethink our strategies. We had to look at, the way we did things. So it was a time for introspection as well for us in the West Indies.
Now, what is you think cricket is a little easier now, looking at the bats, the willows that they have, and also the kind of pitches they are playing in. You played in uncovered pitches, difficult circumstances, conditions difficult.
Well, I don't want to say it's a little easier now because there's so many different formats now and different dimensions, and more is expected of the players. You see the advent of the 360 player, as you call it now. Everybody wants to be able to do the scoops, the different reverse sweeps. So many innovations have come into the game that makes the game so much more exciting, if you want to call it that, to look at from a point of view. Even the fielding, you see some of the breathtaking catches on the boundary, the way they throw the ball in, they get over the boundary, come back. You know, it's not two ways about it. The game has had some exciting innovations, and one has to admire the young players today for really and to gravitate into it and doing it as well as they are. Of course, in the early days, you know, we had not too many rules in the game that would have restricted the bowlers. So, you know, there were times when you went in to face some of the fastest bowlers in the world, and they were not restricted in terms of bowling wides, in terms of bowling no balls, short balls, you know, etc., etc. So as a player, you had to be able to cut and pull and, you know, bob and weave, if you want to call it that, but you had to score out of almost every delivery. Today, some of the rules change, make it a bit more batsman friendly, if you want to call it that, and maybe some of the bowlers would be a little bit aggrieved by that, knowing that they have these free hits. We never had free hits in the early days, so scores, you know, and we had a score in a 50 over game of 250, 260, maybe today with all the different innovations and the restrictions, maybe it could have been about 320, 330. So the game has evolved. There's no two ways about it. It's become a lot more power game now. You see a lot more players hitting so many of these sixes and they're making it look so easy. You know, but I wouldn't say it's an easier game. I would say it's just a lot more innovations and maybe a lot more opportunities for individuals to produce.
Okay. But some lighter part now, West Indians, Jamaicans are known to enjoy life. They don't stress out. Not at all. I mean, you have switch on and switch off mode. When you're not playing cricket, you won't think about cricket and no tension at all. You enjoy life. You are a West Indian from Trinidad. You can explain it better.
Yeah. Well, the Caribbean in itself is considered to be by many a laid-back society. I mean, we have, you know, we are tiny islands. As I said before, we do have our conflict and our confusion. But at the end of the day, we have what we call sun, sea, and sand. We have carnival throughout the Caribbean. Now, Trinidad has been known for having the carnival. So that's the kind of revelry we have with each other. We on the streets, we party, we have a good time, you know. And of course, we have the calypso, and then of Jamaica, you have the reggae. So it's a combination of genres to really and truly enjoy in the Caribbean. So we invite people to come, enjoy the sun and enjoy the sea, and of course have a good time. So it's known to be a party atmosphere. We're not averse to having a little drink here and there and enjoying life, as we say. We let our hair down as best as possible. There's also a serious side to us as well, you know. I think we feel it very actually when we need to be serious, we can be serious. And at the end of the day, we feel that if we can marry all those qualities together, we can be the kind of people that hopefully that in this COVID time, we will be able to overcome it. And we'll be able to see it for what it is and try our best at the end of the day to be a beacon to the world.
You want to dedicate any song for us, maybe for the world, people who are battling COVID? The other day I was talking to Desmond Haynes and he danced for us, he sang for us. Do you want to maybe sing a song and dedicate anything?
Well, I must admit that my singing has always been, you know, relegated to the bathroom. It sounds so much better when I'm having a show singing.
I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can sing better than me. So just.
I think what I want to say is one love. You know, Bob Marley's with one love. That's all I can say. One love. We need just one love. That's all.
Okay, thank you so much for that. But who is your favorite Indian cricketer?
Well, no doubt about it. I'm biased. I'm going to go back to the time when I played against him. There's no doubt about it. Sachin will be, you know, one of my favorite. Of course, I admire young Kohli.
And from the current Indian team
that he has, there's no two ways about it. I think Kohli has to take that. I think no two ways about it. I think he has been admired throughout. I think his level of fitness. I saw him as a matter of fact as a young man in 1998. I went to Malaysia with the Bermuda under-19 team at the time. And he played against the West Indies in one of the games. He scored 100. And I mean, the way he hit the ball, I just was in awe. The young man at that age, under 19, can play. I think the maturity, the composure he showed at that age to be able to guide his team to a formidable total tells me that, hey, this was somebody special.
Thank you so much, Gus Logie. Thank you so much for those answers. Really, really enjoyed talking to you, and all the best for your future endeavors. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for your time.